as you have come up through the ranks, um, how would you advise young people starting their careers about how they can be authentic to themselves, but also fit in the workplace?
I'd actually say the first thing first is to be selfish. You know, if you don't feel safe speaking up, if you're worried about job security, if you're worried about financial security, especially coming from Preuss where a lot of students didn't come from privilege, care about yourself first. Because you're no good to yourself, you're no good to your loved ones, let alone people you don't care about, right? Then just start testing, see what feels comfortable. So in that situation that I mentioned at the beginning about Asians drowning more because we're quiet, when that comment was made, it was luckily made in luckily or unluckily, made in a small group of people where I felt comfortable enough to say, actually, you know, when you drown, you don't have air. And if you don't have air, you can't make a sound. But if it was a one-on-one, I don't think I would have felt comfortable enough to say that, right? So start testing it out only and if only you feel like you can safely do so, only if you feel like that's right beyond the boundaries, and then get more comfortable with what is okay with you.
And what kind of advice do you have for your younger counterparts who maybe haven't quite found that hook either through history or any other way of seeing the importance of being socially aware and socially active? You know, what advice would you have given yourself, your high school self, who hadn't quite made that connection yet?
That's a really hard question, Mr. Ramos. I would probably say the internet is your friend, especially with how prevalent the media has made the Black Lives Matter movement. The win that a lot of the Native Americans got with the pipelines being halted, right? The exposure of it always lends itself to also more resources of it online that's more easy to find. So if it's something just piques your interest, look into it, right? I think an education from Preuss gives you a great foundation to know how to research or even identify in some ways data or information that's true versus something false out there. And I would say use it. Why not? And if you need that extra push, you know, consider who you're surrounding yourself with. Is that helping you? Is that not? Is that making you happy? Is that not? Is that pushing you to be better or not?
And as you became more aware about social issues, how did were you able to talk to your parents about this, your family about this? Like, were you able to bring them along with you, or what's that relationship been like? Given that you have this education, this vocabulary now for it, that you came from a family, and most immigrant parents don't have that kind of language or awareness, or, you know, they have their own set of biases as well. What's that been like as far as bringing your home with you to whatever extent you've been able to do that?
So I will say there's a difficulty in that, right? And I'm sure this is a difficulty that's shared with many children of immigrant parents, or even children who, like myself, came to the US when they were kids, is that our language oftentimes is limited. So in a way that I can speak and read and write in English, I wouldn't say I'm not fluent. Like if you toss me in a room full of Vietnamese people, I can communicate just fine. If you want me to speak educatedly about a topic at a college level or even a high school level in Vietnamese, I just can't. So there's actually a very interesting organization I follow on Facebook called, I think it's called Pivot. And it translates certain words that I wouldn't have known otherwise in English to Vietnamese to talk about social issues. And so I've been following that a little bit. My parents are just not, they're just not politically engaged. So just approaching them on very basic topics. Like I'm very lucky to have friends of many different cultures and many different backgrounds. And so bringing them over, having them as friends, they were at my wedding, they were at a lot of these gatherings that essentially, I think more and more my parents are getting more comfortable with their existence.
Right.
Win for me.
Yeah. That's great.
My question is, now that you are in a position of power as a CEO, how do your experiences impact your hiring practices?
One of the last people I hired, diversity was definitely a big question, right? How do you foster a team that acknowledges difference? How do you foster a team that celebrates difference? So just being very explicit about it. Just saying, how can you take our values as an organization, which really builds in that collaboration and builds in that growth mindset, which is just essentially this idea of being able to handle situations, adapt to change. How do you take all of that, make sure your team is comfortable with it, and then how do you together help lift everyone? And that doesn't mean ignoring diversity. It means recognizing it and recognizing it as a strength.
Okay. We've asked you the tough questions. I'm going to throw you a softball. What have you been doing more of now that you've been quarantined and looks like you're in your home office, probably spend a lot of time there? What have you been doing differently? Have you gained any skills in quarantine?
I don't know if it's a skill, but it's a consistency that I was very surprised by, which was, it's been hard to get me to consistently work out. It's just hard to get me outside the home to say, all right, I'm going to go out just to like sweat for an hour, right? But our gym pivoted to virtual online Zoom classes. And somehow both my husband and I have been working out 5-6 times a week, which I would call that a very exciting new skill that I gained this last few months.
All right. And now you live in LA, right? Or
I live in Orange County.
Orange County.
Same thing. Just kidding.
Close enough from San Diego, yeah, sure.
Well, and you're far enough from San Diego food. What San Diego food do you miss?
Carne asada fries. It's just not the same. Well, one, it's barely here in Orange County. You either have to go to LA for it in San Diego, and for me, it's the same distance. And the LA ones I've tried are just, no, refuse. So the few times I make it down to San Diego a year, it's my one thing.
Nice.
What advice would you give young people about how to climb the corporate ladder?
I don't know if I can give advice because it's so unique for everyone and it's so different in regards to how to stay authentic while progressing in your career. For me, the two things that mattered the most was, did my values and my staying true to myself match the organization? Because for me, that I will never put more than 100% in when I don't believe in the mission. So that was number one for me. And it's also to say number two is, you're not stuck. You should never feel like you're stuck. If it's not working out, explore something else. Because if you feel like you're stuck and you're 20, you have a good 40 plus years of being stuck. And then when you do find something you like, you can put that more than that 100% in. And I think hard work does pay off to a certain extent, but hard work alone in a vacuum is not what you want.
So you were able to find a place where you wanted to give it your all, and you rose through the ranks because you matched the mission of your organization. All right. Any other questions, Ramos?
No, it's been a great interview.
You're more quiet than the other ones, Mr. Ramos. I feel spared.
No, yeah, I'm really impressed with you. Yeah, this is the first time I really had a chance to meet you. I've heard your name before. Yeah, no, I'm just really impressed with where you are in your career and the work that you're doing, and the fact that you're so thoughtful about matching your work to the mission. Sometimes a lot of people think just climb the ladder because the ladder is there, and they're not always reflective about, you know, is that really the ladder that you want for yourself because of the mission. So I think what you said about matching yourself to the mission of the place is absolutely true.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Oh, I will also say one thing that we didn't touch upon is it's okay to make mistakes. And that, I think that's the other piece of advice I want to give high school me or people like me, is it's okay to make mistakes, especially as you experiment with what to say, if you're comfortable or not, things like that. There's definitely been times where, you know, situations happen and 5 hours later, I sit there, I'm like, I should have said this. And then it sticks for like a whole week, right? And that's okay.
All right. Thank you, Thuy. Great having you on. Thank you for changing your schedule around so that way we could make this happen. And always good talking to you. And I'll see you down here in San Diego sometime soon. And we won't go healthy this time. We'll go carne asada fries.
Sounds good. All right. Well, it's very nice meeting you, Mr. Ramos and Mr. Carr. I will see you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye.